Hello, welcome to Run My Arts channel, and today is going to be another soft pastel tutorial, and I'm going to be demonstrating, as you would have noticed from the previous screen, that it's going to be this beautiful delicate looking cosmos flowers using purely Rembrandt soft pastels. For some minor touch-ups or additions, I'll be using Sennelier soft pastels and Caran pastel pencils. So in my previous video, I showed the unboxing and color swatch of these Rembrandt soft pastels. So if you're interested to watch that video, the link is in the description. So to kickstart, I have pre-sketched the flower heads randomly here and there on the paper, and I have also drawn a 1 centimeter border around the edges of the paper to maintain a clean white frame. Alternatively, you can tape the paper onto a board to maintain that border that I just mentioned, but I would like to lift the paper occasionally to remove all those excess dust from the soft pastel. So usually I will pre-sketch flower heads when I'm painting using soft pastel because I do not want to lose the coordination of those flower positions, as well as maintain some brightness. Simply because if you paint over the entire background with a contrasting color versus the actual color of the flower heads, I'm afraid that layering would distort the actual shade that you would like to see from a flower, especially if it's a white flower. So due to that, I would prefer to maintain some brightness and layer them with the actual color when I progress forward into the painting. So the first shade that I'm using over here is a bright green, and since this is going to be an impression of cosmos flowers in a field or in the bushes, so I kick-started with the dominant color, which is bright green, and the second color is a bright pink because I would like to create some bokeh effect of more cosmos flowers in the field. You can have variation of green shades in the field or bushes that you're drawing or painting so that it doesn't appear flat. So that's what I am doing over here. Alright, time to blend the first layer of shades, and most of the time I prefer to use my finger because personally I feel that's the best way to blend. However, in recent days I've started to use these latex gloves just to protect my skin, because sometimes blending with the bare skin tends to be a bit tiring, and just to avoid all those chemicals from the pastel. But if you like to use blending tools like a silicone shaper, tortillon, or even a regular soft sponge, then go ahead. Alright, the next shade, as you can see here, is a light violet, similar to that of a lavender shade. Also to create some variations in the cosmos flower shades, and this kind of contrast makes the painting appear even more interesting instead of just appearing flat and monotonous. Alright, I think I'm happy with the look of this background, and I'm currently removing the excess dust from the soft pastel. As I mentioned earlier in this video, do not blow it off your paper, otherwise you could risk staining the other parts of your painting. So right now I am painting the first cosmos flower. So I've decided to use a dark magenta and just trying to draw in those individual petals with some variations as well. As you can see, I've used the violet, and this is the silicone shaper that I've mentioned earlier, and it's quite good when it comes to blending small areas of your drawing, where it helps to reshape them with minimal movement, because for very small size sketches it will be a bit tedious to use your finger, because I've got fat fingers. Generally our fingers are still a bit chubby, so in order to get that right shaping of your drawing, this kind of tool would be helpful. A tortilla would be helpful as well, because they have this narrow tip. So similar to creating some variation in the shades of your flower, it is also important to create some variation in the flower's dimension, as in flowers having aerial view, flowers facing directly on the paper and sideways and so on. So this creates a very natural, realistic look of your drawing, instead of drawing them the same size and angle. So yep, keep that in mind when you draw your flowers. So I'm going to draw this particular cosmos flower in white shade. However, before I layer it with white shade, I would like to accentuate the shape of this flower, as in the shadow and dark areas of the flower. So the first shade I'm using is a deep violet. It actually looks similar to a gray, and just trying to draw the basic outline of the flower, as well as shade in some of the dark areas, or in other words, shadow. So this step is important when you draw white colored objects or subject of painting, simply because white is usually not purely white. They often reflect the colors around them, and the least that they would reflect is a gray shade, which is an outcome of a shade or shadow on its surface. So usually it is not natural to paint a white object purely white, so keep that in mind to create that shade effects using a pale gray. You can even use a light ochre or even deep blue shades. This theory applies to any medium of painting. I even apply this theory when I make my watercolor paintings. So these are just the first layers of petal that I'm drawing. So at this stage you don't want to get too worked up about the shapes and the definition of it. Just some color coordination would do, because at a later stage of the drawing I'm going to come back and do further adjustments. And from this point forward, I'm just showing you how to blend those petal drawings with basically the finger itself, in case you don't have a blending tool. So it's not that it's impossible to blend with your fingers. You just have to be very patient as you blend in to form the shape intended. So from this point forward, I'm going to use some of my Sennelier Soft Pastels because I do not have that particular shade in the Rembrandt Soft Pastels. So I'm going to apply some detailing onto the flowers. I'm going to kickstart with the white cosmos flower, and this time I've came in with the white pastel, and as you layer in the white shade onto the pre-sketched of the outline and shadow of gray shade, the petals take shape naturally, so it still appears to look like a flower instead of a plain flat disc. And next to this white cosmos flower, I've decided to paint a faint looking flower bud of the same shade. As I draw the flower stems, I am also adding in some flower buds randomly here and there. Use a contrasting color so that your stem can be seen, since these are fine lines. For example, on a dark green background, I have used the lighter shade of green, and on a lighter shade of green or background, I've used the darker shade of pastel so that they would be more obvious. Alright, time to fine tune the petals of the cosmos flowers. I'm applying a lighter shade of pink onto this deep magenta colored cosmos just to show the highlights on its flower petals. And as for this flower, I'm drawing some more outlines, as in the folds in the petals, using a darker shade. So assuming that the light source is mostly on the surface level, so I'm creating a lighter look or brighter look on the upper half of the flower heads, and trying to maintain a deeper shade on the bottom half of the flower heads, where I assume there is more shadow compared to the upper petals. So I'm trying to create this look onto all these flower heads, whereby I'm using more lighter shades on the top parts of the petals and maintaining a deeper shade onto the lower part of the flowers. In simple words, I would say the brighter shades is to create the highlights, while the deeper shades is to create an impression of shadow or shade on the surface of the flower. So over here I have already used white soft pastel to create some stark highlights. After the white highlights, I am using more of the brighter pink onto this dark colored flower, because too much of white might take away the beauty of the deep magenta shade. And at the lower bottom, I am trying to accentuate the dark areas with the gray and a little bit of deep magenta onto this light colored cosmos to accentuate the areas around the pistil, especially the lower bottom. This point forward, I'm going to use Caran pastel pencils to help me put in some sharp details, especially in the form of dots and fine lines. I noticed that this lower bottom of the painting seemed a bit empty, so I'm just adding in some leaf details. In my experience, it will be good to go slow and steady as you progress in your painting and not jump right into the details in the early stages of the painting. Learn to pause and observe your painting before you add in the details, and the result would be a balanced looking painting. I hope you found this demonstration interesting and the tips helpful. If you'd like to support me further, then do hit the like and share button, as well as subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Thank you for your continued support. See you in another demo. Bye.